Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey here, once again with another video on Supergirl Season 2, and this is going to be my review for Episode 5 of Supergirl Season 2, otherwise entitled Crossfire. So obviously before we go ahead, there will be spoilers within this review, so if you haven't watched the episode, go watch it, then come back to this video. And also just a heads up, towards the end of the video, I'll be talking about some Young Justice stuff, which is pretty cool. It'll just be a quick talk, so stick around until then if you want to hear about all that stuff. But let's get into what I thought about this episode. So this episode continued Mon-El's journey into adapting with this new world of Earth that he is now a part of. I must say that opening scene was quite funny with Mon-El, now known as Mike, getting a bit of a makeover, I guess you could say, from Kara or Supergirl to get him ready for a new job at Catco, which was actually supplied by Jimmy Olsen. Now speaking of Jimmy Olsen, this was a pretty big episode for him as he is caught up in the hustle and bustle of crime within National City. Obviously you would think simple bank robberies are easy jobs for Supergirl to stop, but when the criminals have frickin' alien weaponry, it makes it a bit more difficult. But with the Jimmy Olsen stuff with his dad's camera getting destroyed and all of that, he obviously wants to make an impact on the crime within this city. We got an Easter egg in this episode when Kara is disciplining Mike. She actually says thank Rao instead of thank God. Now Rao is basically like a Kryptonian god of sorts. I don't think they actually refer to him as a god, but he's seen in the light of what we would associate as a god. So just think of him as a god, and that's why they've said thank Rao instead of thank God. The reveal that Cadmus is supplying the alien weaponry to those guys wasn't that surprising in the slightest, but it does set up a lot more that we will see this season with Cadmus, as they've done in the first couple of episodes this season. We saw Jimmy Olsen's first dive into being a vigilante by taking tips that he got from Wynn within the DEO, and going after the men with those alien weaponry. Obviously, we get little hints to his future as the Guardian with his balaclava and that, what was it? It was like a door or something that he picked up and used as a shield. But obviously that mission doesn't really go to plan, does it? Now, Jimmy's reasoning as to why he wants to do what he's doing is understandable, seeing that he is always the sidekick to these superheroes. And he wants to be the one, as I said before, to step up and face this crime. So it will be interesting to see how that progresses in the next couple of episodes. I think next episode, he actually gets his suit, I think. Or it might be the episode after, I'm not too sure. Watching Kara get angry with Mike for him doing silly things throughout the episode was funny. Especially all the things involving Miss Tessmacher, where I thought was just hilarious. I am liking the Mon-El/Mike character, but hopefully they don't do too much with him. They do need to focus on Supergirl, but he is a nice character to have on the show. We saw like a Suicide Squad sort of like implant within the bad guys for this episode, which ended up killing them, so they wouldn't spill any information on Cadmus. But it was more of like a high frequency thing that just like sort of fried their brains and stuff like that, instead of just blowing them to smithereens. It was not at all surprising seeing that Mike will not be going back to Catco to work. It was fun while it lasted though. And hey, Mike got pretty lucky with Miss Tessmacher in the, was it the storage room or something? So the big shock reveal at the end of this episode is that Lena Luthor's mother is actually the woman from Cadmus. But I guess the big question is, does Lena Luthor know that she works for Cadmus? Or is that like an unknown thing to her? Because if she knows that she's working for Cadmus, then we've got another Luthor that is sort of evil. But if she doesn't, that means she's being played by her mother into possibly giving her funds or doing certain things for her. But it will be interesting to see where all of that goes throughout this season. But overall, I thought this was a really strong episode for Supergirl. I enjoyed it all. Obviously, Martian Manhunter and obviously Miss Martian weren't a part of this episode, but that usually alludes to the fact that there will be a big Martian Manhunter episode, or maybe even just a Martian Manhunter-centric episode. But I thought all the characters were given fairly good screen time for the ones that appeared in here. I thought Wynn had a good episode. I thought Mike had a good, or Mon-El had a good episode. And obviously we have that Jimmy Olsen storyline progressing. Obviously not everyone's the biggest fan of it. I wouldn't say I'm the biggest fan of it. I'm okay with it, but it's just weird seeing such an iconic character such as Jimmy Olsen being turned into this vigilante known as the Guardian. But personally, I don't think they're actually going to go through that with the whole season, where he's going to be this vigilante known as the Guardian throughout the whole season. I think they might get to like a midway point after the mid-season finale to the finale where he stops doing it, or maybe he gets really injured. But he is a main character on the show, as we saw in season 1, so they sort of need to do something with him and not just make him the new Cat Grant, but not as exciting as what Cat Grant was. Obviously, as I said before, I have some Young Justice stuff. If you have not heard yet, or if you've been living under a rock, Young Justice has actually been confirmed for season 3. Now, what I read, they're in just pre-production, which means the show might not come out for another year, so it's still a decent amount away. And obviously they might be delayed if they can't get back the cast members that did the voices for those characters in the past seasons. That can delay things. But then again, they might get new people, because in between seasons 1 and 2 of Young Justice, a bit of a spoiler alert, but it's not that big of a spoiler alert, but there's like a 5-year gap between the end of season 1 of Young Justice and the beginning of season 2. So if they do something similar to that with season 3, they might get a person that has an older voice for a certain character. There's only one voice actor who I think that might be difficult to get for them, and that is the guy who voiced Aqualad, who is Kari Payton, I think that's how you pronounce him, and he's actually playing Ezekiel on The Walking Dead at the moment. You know, the guy with the dreadlocks and the tiger. So depending how long Ezekiel's on that show, it might be difficult for them to get him to do the voice of Aqualad, depending on how many episodes they do. Also, let me know in the comments, I'm not too sure, is it coming on Netflix or is it going back to Cartoon Network? Because Cartoon Network was the one that cancelled it, so, you know, it'd be a bit awkward if it just went back to Cartoon Network. And also, I think it'd serve better on Netflix. Netflix is really the thing that saved it, with so many people going to watch it. So I think it's sort of owed to Netflix if they do bring it out on there, because a lot of people will watch it, even if they didn't watch season 1 and 2, and they just see this new thing called Young Justice. It's DC, it's got a version of, obviously it's got Kid Flash, you know, Superboy, all this stuff. They'll go back and watch season 1, 2, and then watch the new season of 3. So I think it's very beneficial to Netflix if they were the ones to get it. But overall, I'm happy to see it back. I'm happy they did a season 3 of the cartoon instead of doing a live action version. I was actually scared they were going to do it. But even if they were going to do a live action, they'd probably have to wait till Arrow ended in around season 7 before they even considered doing it. And I think it would have been very messy if they did a live action show. I think it serves better as an animated show. But thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed not only the episode of Supergirl, but also my video. If you did, it'd be very much appreciated if you could leave a like on it. Let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think about this episode of Supergirl, as well as all of that Young Justice stuff I just talked about. And if you are new around here, make sure to subscribe. I'll catch you later, guys. Goodbye.